everybody. This is the Elbows Down MotoGP podcast. This is the Austin, Texas. Shut up. The fuck's wrong with me? Right, what the hell?
Right.
Okay.
Go.
Hello, listeners. This is the Elbows Down MotoGP podcast. This is the Grand Prix of the Americas review. Joined as always by Alex.
Hello.
This was an event. We were doing the preview here. We thought it was so good. We'll do it again. We've both got the day off, so why not? More eventful than we thought.
Hell of a lot more eventful than we thought. Definitely 2 out of the 3 races on Sunday were a bit like, what is going on?
Yeah.
We were together on Sunday for the races, well, not for Moto3 because whatever, but I have seen all the races now, but we were together for the end of Moto2 and for MotoGP, which was great. And there was a lot of screaming at the TV, which is nice because we very rarely get to watch the races together at the moment because of work and all that sort of stuff. But I've missed yelling at the TV with you.
Yeah, it was nice. It's nice to it was nice to have a tea time Grand Prix. So it can still work and enjoy some time. And obviously today we've got the day off to review it.
Yeah.
But what a predictable weekend to begin with. But the weather was something we did say here. If we predict it'll be sunny, it'll be wet, and it was. To some degree, shall we say?
It was really, really weird, wasn't it? We had some dry sessions. Qualifying was the only time that the Moto3 guys actually got any dry track time. The rest of it was piss wet through. And then the actual race for Moto3 was pretty cool because they got some dry track time there as well. So they only really had a very small amount of dry track time. Yeah. And then the race was dry for them as well. And then obviously everything went a bit wrong before Moto2 and everything got a bit sort of damp, greasy and nasty. And then obviously that produced some weird results for Moto2 and produced a very, very entertaining start to the MotoGP race.
Yeah. My goodness me. Yeah, let's go straight into it.
Let's do it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Moto3 first, I think, then we'll go into Moto2 and then we'll finish off with everything that happened with MotoGP, because let's face it, the MotoGP start to the race is probably one of the most talked about things at the moment. It was very entertaining, and the introduction got cut short as well, which is something that you never see unless there is something absolutely mental happened. And I can still see the look on Susie Perry's face as she was leaving the grid, and then saw Marc Marquez sprint past her. Anyway, we'll go into that in a moment. Because he's like, what the fuck?
So pretty past Moto3, because ironically, I'll probably, the least exciting race of the day.
It was a bit of a war of attrition as well, wasn't it? Because like I said earlier on, they'd only had a little bit of dry track time, so when they got a dry race, they were sort of like, I don't know what to do. And so we had pretty dull, broken up, kind of processional top 3/4. Rueda, amazing victory. He was just switched on the entire time. Didn't see any mistakes from him.
No.
Obviously, when we've seen people winning for the first time, obviously we know Rueda's got a couple of wins under his belt already, but when we've seen people win for the first time, especially at Kota, think about Sergio Garcia last year in Moto2, the amount of mistakes he made. Fortunately, he was far enough ahead to actually get away and win the race. But you think about that, and then Rueda didn't make, I saw, any mistakes at all. He just looked so switched on, and really special ride from him. It was great, and it was really good to have Max Kielers there for the first time, and P2 on the grid. Really awesome.
He led his first ever Grand Prix into the first corner on the first lap.
Yeah, that is.
He's always got that.
When has anybody ever done that? First ever race, and you lead from the first corner
ever in Grand Prix. Good question. Alex has got me there. We'll have to look into that one.
We'll have to look into that one because I don't know either.
But literally his first race. 17 years old. It was too young to start the season in Thailand. So, brilliant. He's always got that. And he will finish podiums this year. I think it's just as the race grew older, his inexperience at that level of a race distance sort of showed, but he was still fighting with Pecco, I believe, right onto the last lap. And Pecco almost thought, I've got to beat you today. I have to beat you now.
It was awesome.
And he did. He went to the line though. I thought he could have a stab at Pecco on the last corner, but then Cameron switched to Rueda winning, obviously. And Pecco just managed to beat the 17-year-old rookie sensation.
I mean, we say that it was a bit dull, the race. It wasn't that dull. It's just by Moto3 standards, you usually expect it to be a complete bun fight. And obviously, last year we did see a lot of runaway race leads with Doug Alonso and that sort of thing. Yeah. But what I really liked about this race was these 3 Red Bull rookies guys having a big scrap.
Yeah.
Obviously, Keras in his second year now, and then Keelas and Carpe.
Yeah.
That battle for 4th.
It's a massive compliment to that championship, folks.
Awesome.
Massive compliment.
Really cool. So watching them scrap together was awesome. Also, what was it with replacement riders this weekend? Had Adrian Cruzes, who finished. Yeah, he was awesome. He finished P8. Yeah. He was overtaking some big names, and he was having a bit of a scrap with Tyler Rosato at one point as well.
He was also. Scott didn't have a good weekend really. Hurt himself a bit, didn't he?
Yeah.
So
they had a big high side on Saturday.
Yeah. So with that said, I think it's good that they had that standing rider to make up for it. Like, it's annoying because Scott could have done quite well, but and you would say Chris was quite one for a starter, Alex.
And I was also going to say that it was nice to see Cruz there because he gave us something to look at for the CIP Green Power team, because usually it's Detweiler and I mean.
You can't, no, it's a bit further back. That's a nice way of putting it.
To be honest, I did enjoy Moto3 in parts. It's just the front sort of part of it was a bit dull. Yeah. Big shout out to a few of the other rookies as well, so not just Carpe and Keelas, but also Cormac Buchanan. Cormac Buchanan in P10.
I mean, Gary Emmett was saying sometimes you sort of lose yourself a bit watching a race when it's and you think, hang on, what? Yeah, that is who I think it is in 10th place. So brilliant, really good showing there.
Guido Pini's looked strong from the get-go as well. Adrian Fernandez, obviously a veteran now in Moto3, even though he's a bit of a baby face, you wouldn't think he's a veteran. But I mean, his spammo on the grid and then his jump start as well. I mean, he very, very nearly didn't get to start the race because he turned up to the grid so late. Yeah. That the safety car was almost on its way, and it's like, no, hang on a minute, I'm here now, and they allowed him to start. And then because I think he was so flustered, he ended up jumping the start entirely, and then got a double long lap penalty. But came all the way through from P21, I think he finished after he finished his double long lap. Came all the way from P21 to P12, so pretty amazing effort from Adrian Fernandez.
That's a fair one. He gets overlooked a lot, I think, because he's well successful or more well heard of younger brother. I think he's one of the best organised teams in that class. You'd expect it from him, but still a good comeback, right? Yeah,
and of course, David Munoz crashing out from pole position, crashing out in turn 1. Pretty sort of annoying low side that he had. The classic Kota turn 1 crash is that sort of little slide off, and unfortunately he wasn't able to do an even Ortola from 2023.
I remember that.
Where he crashed twice. He crashed twice and managed to win, but David Munoz didn't recover from that and retired eventually, so that was a bit of a shame really, but I mean, is it really that much of a shame, because we don't really rate
I don't think away from that, I don't think it's going to happen for him anymore.
He's had so many opportunities. I mean, his time at Boe was just full of stupid mistakes. He got so many bollockings from Jose Boe, and was basically told, we were basically told that Jose Boe couldn't wait to get Munoz out of his team. And we thought maybe he'll have learned something this year, maybe he's going to be more mature. We said it in our sort of pre-season episode, that hopefully David Munoz has come to his senses, matured a little bit, but it turns out he hasn't. So anyway, at least he didn't take anyone out this time.
Yeah, he didn't. And we've looked at, we said as well, it'd be nice to be proved wrong, but obviously it's a long season ahead. But after this season, if this keeps happening, this is his fourth year, I believe now, actually. Certainly third year.
3.5, I think, is 2020. 2021, he joined Silverstone or Le Mans.
2022. Anyway, this is definitely his third.
No, 2022. Either way, we should know that, but we don't. And also bit of a crap day, especially for the 658 Squadron Corsa, with both riders crashing out. Nepa and Luca Lanetta. So they were both very annoying crashes. Yeah. They're both textbook. They were exactly the same as each other. Those crashes.
They were. Yeah, you expect better from. Lanetta's still very, very young. To be fair, and I think he will get on the podium this year.
Honda really suffered.
I think it's not really on the track. But then you say that, but then for Risato can always still find himself in front. But we'll have to see. I think Lanetta is one of the shining stars in Moto3 that I tend to think someone like him on a KTM would be lethal. But there will be more chances this year and more Honda tracks.
Yeah, but he's the poster boy for 658 Squadron Corsa, isn't he? So he's not going to be on a KTM anytime soon unless they decide they're going to move manufacturer.
But he's the poster boy. It's a good weapon for him,
yeah.
But before we move on, I know everyone thinks about MotoGP, but we're doing it a bit different today.
We're doing it backwards because, like we say, the most interesting thing to talk about is MotoGP, so let's wang it on the end so you all actually stay and watch.
I'll just fast forward. You already clicked play.
Moto2, back-to-back wins for Dixon, first time since his 2018 British Superbike Championship.
Yeah, brilliant. Bloody brilliant.
So he's in the Grand Prix paddock. He's never had back-to-back wins before. Obviously, now he's got Argentina and Circuit of the Americas. So that was fantastic. Also, P7 in the first race of the year means now that he's the championship leader, especially with Manuel Gonzalez, who completely spammed up his tyre choice for the Sunday race at Kota. And, he was somewhere at the back, a lap down, getting blue flagged.
Why did he do that? It was such a daft. I don't know why he thought it was suddenly going to just dry off in that time period. It was a lot wetter than Moto2. It was the wettest race of the lot in the bunch, really. It was.
We were watching it, weren't we, for the setup for MotoGP, and we were watching the line, the racing line. It was dry, but then the racing line's only about 2 feet wide.
Yeah. So you're still going to pick a dry tyre at that level. If you just brake normally, you can still stay on that dry line. If you brake well enough at that level, you're good enough to do that. So that's why they did it. But in Moto2, there was no dry line. Not really. No, there wasn't really. There might have been a part of the track that was drying quicker. But I don't understand when, from a team manager perspective, and collaborating with the rider, the chief mechanic, why would you make that decision? Maybe if you're like P15 in the championship and you're supposed to be a top 5 rider, we need to. So let's make a bit of a. Let's maybe go for a gamble. We're not going to dilute today. We're back here anyway. If you think it might dry, even then it wasn't going to dry. So it was a title contender and someone who was leading the championship.
Yeah.
Why? I don't understand that at all. But it's actually helped out Jake Dixon a lot because Jake Dixon now leads the championship by I think 11 points or 12 points. Which, to be honest, if you'd have said Jake Dixon will be going into Qatar with over a 10-point lead in the standings, I'd have been like
13 points.
Yeah, 13 points. Okay, I 3. Brilliant.
And it's Canak next, so he's actually leading 14 points from Gonzalez. That is how costly that decision was. And obviously with Moto2, I think they had the trickiest job all week, all day Sunday, because obviously with MotoGP you've got the spare bike. You can have the spare bike set up how you want it, depending on how you think the weather's going to go, how you think the race is going to go. And if you've got a flag-to-flag situation, obviously, but with Moto2, you've only got one bike. So when you choose those tyres, it's not like F1 where you can just pull in and change your tyres. It takes a long time, especially Michael Laverty was saying in the commentary that especially the front fork is extremely difficult to get that wheel off to replace the wheel, replace the tyre. So it's really, really fiddly. It's obviously you think about like trying to change your rear tyre on your push bike.
And it doesn't matter anyway because even if they had they don't have a spare bike, so they couldn't just do the flag like in MotoGP.
You're going to lose a whole lap just pulling in to change your tyre, so you can't do it like you say. But I'm saying figuratively, if there were to be a flag-to-flag situation, so you can't change your tyre in under a minute.
It would be interesting to see the mechanics flapping, wouldn't it? Taking that rear off. But Jesus. But, MotoGP especially.
And they are rapid. Those mechanics. You think about Sam Lowe's when he had Le Mans a couple of years ago, where he
have to start taking stuff off Arbolino's bike.
Yeah,
Move it over to Sam's.
And Prick sticking it to Sam's bike.
Yeah, and he missed the start, didn't he? I think he missed out, but yeah, good point.
Speaking of Elfmar VDS, polar opposites, wasn't it? Polar opposites from the two teammates. Jake Dixon obviously winning the race. Philip Stalach should have listened to his teammates, should have listened to his team should have listened to what the other side of the garage were doing, I think, because Stalach was stone cold last. Yeah. And because he chose to go on slicks for the Moto2 race. Yeah. And the two Elfmar VDS guys bookending the Moto2 field, weren't they? So it's sort of like a warm embrace.
Yeah,
they
did it on purpose, definitely. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. Uniformity.
TNT hit the nail on the head. I don't know if it was Neil or it was Gav. Was saying, I can imagine this, and I've heard it before from riders. When it's those conditions, it isn't fully wet, but it is damp. It is mentally draining because you are concentrating so hard on everything.
Yeah.
Wheel spinning, not taking too many liberties, hitting curbs, as Mark obviously discovered weren't even dry in the dry race ish. But the concentration required in changing conditions like that when it's damp, and to win by over 3 seconds. Well, actually, I think he might have just dipped under on the last lap. But what a fantastic performance from Jake! And now he's actually winning dry by silly amount of time, and now in wet conditions. So no one can say this circumstance or that circumstance. He smoked them and leads the championship. But yeah, I was saying to you, like, if this keeps going, I mean, how long will it take until manages MotoGP? If it was to be like, I don't know, all the way till July to Bruno, can they actually just ignore it all year because he's 29? Because it's a bit daft if it happens all year and there's not even a conversation.
Or does it become one of those Moto2 specialists? Like back in the 250 days where you'd have a rider who is just a 250 rider and never going to be anything else, sort of thing.
Because back then, you took pride in it. I'm not saying he's not taking pride in staying Moto2, but you took pride in being a 125 or 250 specialist. And that's what you did. It just doesn't work like that anymore, really. It's a stepping stone to MotoGP. It's...
Yeah.
Really. Even Sam Lowe's, who was always known as a good 600 rider, okay? But even he just couldn't resist to go to MotoGP. He wanted to go to MotoGP. He was there to go to MotoGP eventually with Rossini Brilliant. That didn't work out, but eventually that's what the target is. But that's again, he's had 2 wins in 2023, 2 wins in 2024. He's had 2 wins in 2025 after 3 rounds. So you think he's going to get more this year. But people were saying there was a lady that followed me on Twitter. I forget her name. She was saying, but what we talk about the nationality thing for? He should be there on merit. He's not good enough. He's not like Marquez. And so I replied, is Chantra like Marquez? No. So he's had 2 wins in total. He's in MotoGP. I didn't get a response after that. So people just need to realise that it's the only thing blocking Jake and inconsistency. Because if you were a manager and you said I'm not hiring him because of inconsistency, then fair, because we haven't seen the whole year yet, and the last 2 years he has been massively inconsistent. As much as we like the character and he's good at winning now and again, it's just the age. It's just the age thing. If he was a 21-year-old Brit, Dawn would be like, oh my god, like this could reboot, our Western following in the UK.
He's also you say age is the only thing that's stopping him. But think about his personality as well. Obviously, he's a great personality. A lot of people like him. A lot of people hate him because Dixon's a proper character. And yes, when we've had some ridiculous sort of media scenarios with Dixon, it is when Neil Hodgson shoved a microphone under his face just after he'd been knocked off at Silverstone a couple of years ago. But I think you'd look at that as a team manager and something and think, hang on, he's not very professional. But at the same time, you've got to play devil's advocate. Yeah. If you've got adrenaline pumping around you and you're pissed off that you've just been knocked off your bike and then someone shoves a microphone under your face, you're going to say, ban him! And do all that sort of stuff. Speaking of which, he did get a little bit irritable after the race. Obviously, during the race, Roberts, all that sort of stuff, they were all given the blue flag. The blue flag means you're about to get passed by the leader of the race, get out of the way, get off the racing line. And Dixon was sort of, I think he kind of understood. I think when he was saying it, when he was telling the media that he was annoyed, he kind of actually thought, hang on a minute, no, it's coming to me now, I can try and see why. Because basically Dixon was annoyed that he lost time because he realised that Arbolino was gaining on him, and he was losing time because he was waiting for the guys on slicks to get out of the way, the guys in the back of the pack to get out of the way so he could lap them. But I think then during that interview he sort of said, well, yeah, to be fair, if I was on slick tyres on a very low grip slippy track and I had a couple of seconds to get out of the way, I wouldn't be like shit on the hot shovel. I'd probably have to be a little bit careful because you'd rather finish the race last than get it entirely, So, but yeah, he was a bit annoyed about that, wasn't he? And then of course everybody on Facebook and Twitter is going, oh, he's such a dickhead and all that sort of thing. He's not. It's right to get annoyed about these things. But yeah, anyway, so classic Arbolino conditions as well. Yeah, wasn't it just?
No, I mean, you were saying, I think you predicted it.
I did.
That you would do well if it was a wet weather.
If it was a wet weather, Arbolino, yeah. 100%.
Nice to see back in Ferme again. And Pramac's first podium in Moto2 must be.
Yeah. To mention about Moto2 as well is the rookies and how they looked. I mean, obviously we've seen Holgado the last few races looking really, really strong. But actually, Ortola was P6 as a top rookie. Kota was even Ortola. Holgado was in P8 and Colin Vire in P10. So 3 rookies in the top 10, which is pretty cool. And also, I was going to say very, very quickly as well that another replacement rider that's done really well this weekend is Oscar Gutierrez, who we used to see. Well, we're used to seeing in Moto3. We don't usually watch Moto3, but he's usually in Moto3. So Oscar Gutierrez did a cracking job as well as
that was
Kota.
That was
where was
a lot of people would have been like, what? Who? Gutierrez P12. But that race, I mean, some people annoy you when people say, it's only because it's wet. So, you've got to be able to be good in these conditions. You can't expect 22 Grand Prix to be bone dry. It doesn't work like that.
No. Definitely isn't this year.
I get what people are saying. They're saying, obviously, under normal circumstances, you haven't got the performance to push it deeper into the brakes in the dry, and everything, under braking, more acceleration. You've got to be more cautious in the wet, so sometimes you can make up time that normally people that aren't good in the wet, who would have been fast in the dry. I get what you're saying, but it's irrelevant. The whole beauty of this level is to be good in both conditions if you can be.
The Moto2 is so close as well. Especially when it's dry. Moto2 is so cutthroat. And it's so full of scrutiny as well, isn't it, as Moto2? And it's so easy for an extremely talented rider like Aaron Canet to just get forgotten about because somebody else has won a race and that sort of thing. But I think that's why, for me, Moto2 is the most exciting because you just absolutely have no idea who's going to do well.
Yeah, most of the time. Yeah, I mean, you can have a very good idea of the podium, but even that changes quite often. Cutthroat is the word.
Speaking of being able to predict podiums easily, should we move on to MotoGP?
I mean, Alex decided, because we both picked Marc in our fantasy, and I think many other people would have done this if they didn't already do it in Thailand, maybe Argentina, boosted Marc for their fantasy, and he did not deliver. But that was the end of it. The start of it was something else. I mean, we'll start from practice. I mean, in those change conditions on Friday, that was insane. The time he was finding over everyone else as the track dried out, he was 8/10 there, 6/10 there. He's only a bit up last second. Oh, there's another 4/10. I was like, what? And then another 8/10. And you just think, how on earth is he doing this?
When he was half a second and more faster than the VR46 boys in practice, and they were the ones that were obviously really close behind him in Friday's practice session. They had Digier and Morbidelli right behind him. And
speaking of Digier, I think it's impressive that Digier qualified just 1/10 slower than Marc.
Yeah, I know.
I think that's incredibly impressive considering Marc's form at Kota that looked untouchable. So fair play to Digier. Alex Marquez again Mr. Consistency over the weekends, just thereabouts. And that, I mean, Q2 was quite strange, really. I mean, you put your front row: Marquez, Di Gianantonio, Alex Marquez, with Acosta, Morbidelli, Pecco, Bagnaia. Now, I missed a bit at the end of qualifying because I was working. But seeing Pecco on the second row, I thought, oh, here we go again.
Yeah.
Come on.
Here comes on the P4, P3 sort of thing.
Yeah. Or maybe even off the podium, exactly, yeah. But Pecco did what we've been saying in the past, briefly. If you are slower than someone like Marc, easily slow on race pace, you need to rough them up. And Pecco starting the sprint was electric. Straight into turn 1, from P6 into P2, into P1 actually. And Marc knew straight away when he was trying, and Marc was straight ahead of him again. Pecco got him back again. Marc wasn't having any of it. Even Marc nearly high started at the end of the first lap, and still ended up coming on top of those two, in front of those two. I think genius from Marc, but Pecco obviously doing what Rossi used to do to Casey Stoner. Or Marc himself, like if you know someone much faster than you, all you can do is rough them up early while they're still close to you and interrupt their rhythm, and that's exactly what Pecco was trying. Probably he might even had a phone call from Valle himself the night before, or that morning of the sprint. So well done to Pecco. But what we're really getting at here, Alex, is the race and that fiasco or farcical shenanigans going on with this drive. We've had this before, kind of Argentina in 2018. We've had it in Sachsenring, obviously 2014. I remember watching both of these races. The silliest was Argentina with Miller just on the front row on his own. Now the rule states that you would have to start from pit lane, and depending on the time, you'd have to take along that penalty. If you're going to change that past that time frame left, and 3 minutes I think they were saying, then you're going to have to do that. What did you make of it when it was unfolding, Alex? Because the rule is unclear to even the factory Ducati team, and apparently Erta and Dorna.
I was going to say the rule isn't even clear to the people who write them.
It's ridiculous.
So, bit of a timeline of what we saw. Obviously, we were watching the national anthem. We didn't realise everything was unfolding while we were watching the national anthem.
No.
Then it all sort of, everyone starts clearing off the grid, and then we get we get Susie Perry right in the front of the grid, sort of talking about stuff, and then she wraps it up, and then it goes into the introduction for the race. With the silly music and all, and everyone, all the riders posing like they want to hit each other, and then it cuts short, and everyone's just like, "What's going on?" And there's Marc Marquez sprinting off the grid towards pit lane. And it was so funny watching the replays. Susie Perry's face is like,
"What are you doing? It's not Marc. What are you doing?
What are you doing?" I think my first reaction was, as you just realised he needs a piss or something. It was mental, wasn't it? And then everybody started flapping, and it's just classic Marc Marquez, throw everybody into a complete panic. So that was just sort of what we were watching. We were like, what is going on? This is absolutely crazy. They had to cut the introduction short. And then all of a sudden it was just chaos.
And then there was, he knew people were going to follow him. That's what I find genius about it. He even admitted it. The plan worked. Well, he didn't. Yes, we'll get to the accident. But the plan worked, and he didn't have to start from pit lane. Nor did he have to serve along that penalty, or both, or one of the two. But then he knew that people would follow, which would cause a race start delay.
Yes, it would cause a race start delay.
So he abused the rule. He didn't break the rule.
No, he didn't break the rule at all. The rule was made to look like it had been broken because Erta and Dorna completely spammed up their own rule. Well, Erta's own rule of if 11 bikes leave the grid, then we force a race restart. 10 bikes left the grid, including Marc. What I thought was really funny, and someone, I can't remember who it was, posted it on Twitter or something. They said, what's really funny is that everyone left the grid and went to get their other bike, and there was Maverick Vinales with no bike. Maverick Vinales was running around pit lane. And he looked so angry, didn't he?
It's like, where's my bike? I know it's not great right now, but it's still faster than me running this race.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, get on one of the scooters that the photographers have.
It was
mental. So technically, if the rules are the rules, and if you're going to follow the rules, which, as we know, the stewards like to follow the rules to an inch over a bit of green paint sort of thing, which is fair enough, I suppose. But they like to follow the rules as the rules are written. However, this time they decided that 10's near enough 11. Let's just start the race. Let's restart the race. And then some really interesting footage came up.
Really good work from Dorna.
After the race, yeah, really good work from Dorna. And whoever the camera and sound guy was, who was positioned behind Marc Marquez and his team, overheard what Marc was saying to his team, and was basically saying, right, is Pecco on a wet bike? Yes. Is Alex on a wet bike? No, I don't know. Okay. Right, I want my dry bike. Get the other bike ready. Get the dry bike ready.
Yeah.
Let me know when it's ready. And we hear that. You can hear that when the national anthem was being sung by that young lad, which was a cracking national anthem. He did a really good job of it.
Oh, that was brilliant. It was got me going a bit. Actually, I like that anthem.
Always get you going.
They do, yeah, but that was a good voice.
He was crying a little bit, actually.
I thought, Jesus, yeah. Sometimes I don't know, softy guys sometimes. But yeah, talk about that footage.
Yes, that footage.
I actually saw someone say, "This looks so staged." Like, what? You think that a crew chief and one of the most professional, well, one of the most elite athletes in the world, highest paid athletes in the world, and the team boss is going to be like, yeah, sure, Donna, yeah, we'll do some theatre for you before Marc goes and does his job. No, it looked that footage is almost too perfect. It is so interesting. I get it looks a bit weird like that, but
and also
it is real, and they have to have these conversations.
The conspiracy theory people will say, well, why were they having that conversation when they probably knew there was a microphone right behind them? Because even if you're not focusing on what's going on in your peripherals, you've got peripheral visions enough to see a massive camera and a big fluffy microphone sticking into a couple of feet away from you. So make of that what you will, but it's not going to be staged, for crying out loud.
I do love Marc.
It's not the moon landing on 9/11,
No, it's not staged, guys.
It's not the sort of thing that you can just sort of go, oh well, But yeah, anyway. So,
but also, I love Marc's demanding. It's like, I want everyone working on that bike now, on my dry bike. I want everyone working. I want to tell me when it's ready, and we'll go with this plan.
And they did.
Don't tell anyone.
And it worked really, really well. Because at first, my first reaction when we saw that they were restarting the race was, it's not gone to plan. He's ballsed this up somehow. I don't think he's anticipated everybody else, 9 other riders leaving the grid. And then, as it sort of played out, I realised, hold on a minute, no, it's gone exactly to plan. Because had not enough riders left the grid, Marc would have had to have...
He would have had to do a ride through.
One thing that we did notice was Marc lined up on his dry bike at pit lane start, and then all the other riders were still running off the grid.
And then I think Digi did it too, and I saw Mia and Pecco, and I think...
And then that's when it was sort of red flagged, wasn't it? Yeah, and Vinales.
The thing is, the red flag was only flown when Vinales was trying to... I thought no, this is enough. I remember the camera panning to the red flag just after Maverick was on his own without a bike. Because I don't think they wanted a fiasco of riders starting in anger from pit lane. I know it wasn't as many bikes as happened in 2014 at Sachsenring. Look that up, by the way, if you've not seen it. That's an insane race start with most of the bikes in pit lane. It's like narrower than Oliver's Mount in Scarborough. I don't think Race Direction wanted that again. So Marc just knew that this was going to work, and it did work. But we'll get to why it didn't work in the long run. Marc could control this race, and he pretty much did straight away. Pecco wasn't able to recreate his start from the sprint. He got close to, but not quite. And Marc, I mean, you can touch the inside curves. This is what Neil Hodgson didn't say. He shouldn't have touched the curve. Well, you can touch the curve on the inside if it's hot and it's dry. Because these modern Grand Prix curves, you can touch them on the inside if the angle's right, and they're flat enough at Coaster anyway around those S-bends.
Yeah.
But it's just rained, and Marc, I think it was hovering around the 2.3 second gap, I believe, to Pecco. And now and again, Pecco was able to pull back a bit in certain sectors, certainly not the ones that were all left, 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 left. But
a few moments later,
you might notice a slight change of location, folks, and that is because we now have two dogs, but mainly because the phone was directly in the sunlight, and we're guessing that because we pressed record after a bit of editing for the second half of the episode, and it stopped, and we think it was because it was overheating the phone, because it was quite warm while we were in this room.
Yeah, so we've actually moved pub now, so we walk the dogs in between, and now we're back on.
A bit different, but yeah, we know where we were, and we're basically talking about Marquez handling a gap that we thought he was going to. Well, I thought it'd be 5 seconds up the road, not 2.5, 2.3 seconds, 2.2 seconds. Pecco maintaining the gap, so Pecco deserved the win. At the end of the day, we were talking about Marc touching a curve on the inside when it wasn't fully dry, and to be honest, he should have known better when he's pretty much got control of the entire race anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, unbelievable, really. And we've come away from Kota. Well, those who come away from Kota, Pecco 12 points behind him. That's 12 points behind Alex Marquez.
Yeah. There's 12 points covering the top three. So from Marc Marquez down to Pecco, those are the top three. And now we really, really have a championship going.
Yeah. Sorry, folks. But yeah, we
have a championship going, because if you think about it now, we've got 20 points going down from Pecco Bagnaia to Franco Morbidelli. So I mean, that's pretty impressive when you think about that. And then there's another 14 points. Let's just get this absolutely bang on. So yeah, let's look at it. So Morbidelli, there's 20 points down to Morbidelli from Bagnaia, and then there's 11 points down from Morbidelli to Gian Antonio, and then Agura is another 19 points off that. So when you think about it that way, there are almost double the amount of points separating Morbidelli and Bagnaia than there are across the top three. So that's Marc, Alex, and Pecco, which is pretty amazing. So we've definitely got I think what a lot of people were kind of worried about this championship was that we wouldn't see any mistakes from Marc Marquez, because we haven't seen any mistakes from Marc Marquez until Kota. Because think about it, his first crash was actually on Friday during the practice session at Kota. So that's this is the first time that we've actually seen problems from Marc. So I think a lot of people, and we were sort of thinking, God, when are we going to see an issue for Marc? Yeah. And you actually would have lost your money. On that bet.
On the prediction that he wouldn't win until Europe.
Well, he wouldn't make a mistake until Marc wouldn't make a mistake until Europe. Something like that. It was all that.
He wouldn't. No, so he wouldn't lose a race till Europe. He would win everything until we got to Europe. And I think people say that he was two and a bit seconds. He didn't crash. He was in the crash. He just made a mistake, and he would have won anyway. Well, he did. That's his mistake. Then it doesn't take anything away from Pecco. No. Pecco could have easily crashed after. We were saying what was happening. Like, don't be a donk now. Bring it home, for goodness sake. Bring 25 points home.
No, could you imagine if...
Well, I remember you saying 3 corners to go. I remember you saying, oh, come on, Pecco. Yeah, come on.
This is something else that we need to consider as well about this championship. Of the top 3, the only rider that hasn't crossed the line in one of the 6 races that we've had, that's including the sprint races, is Marc Marquez. He's the only rider that has crashed out of a race now, of the top 3 riders. Him, his brother, and Pecco. Alex Marquez has finished P2 in all 6 races. That's 3 sprints, 3 GPs. And Pecco has crossed the line every single time on the podium, apart from in the main race in Argentina, where he came 4th. So the outstanding, the absolutely outstanding consistency of the top 3. Is amazing, and now Marc's made a mistake. It's left it wide open, and as Marc has actually said, it's the championship's changed in a split second, which is very exciting. And we've got Qatar next in just over a week and a half, and a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's not Marc's track. It's not Marc's track." Well, think about it. Last year on the 23 Ducati, Marc came P5 and P4 in the sprint and main race respectively. So I think we could expect something decent from Marc. I think he'll be not riding angry. I think he'll be. He's
way too psychologically strong to ride angry. He'll just be the same Marc, but he might, if anything, he might think, okay, Yeah, well done, but I'm back now, and good luck with that. And we'll have Jorge Martin back as well, but that's another conversation.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have Martin back for the first. Hopefully we'll have Martin back, and that's if he gets obviously cleared by Dr. Mir.
Yeah. But obviously, with regards to, I mean, Qatar, we've had quite well. We haven't had. It's more of a track that you test at than Kota. We might see more of what the year shows at Qatar. Definitely Jerez, but maybe even Qatar will see more for the other manufacturers. Now, the other manufacturers, Alex, Kota, Yamaha, shone quite well, and I think it is now safe to say that it is as good, if not some tracks for all we know, the rest of the season, better than the KTM. Aprilia, not sure because the Aprilia may be the same. Bez finished P6 on the weekends. Agura did well again. We still don't know the true form because we haven't had Martin on it, who was arguably faster in the Barcelona test. But
Agura is currently the top Aprilia in the standing as well. In the standings, let's talk about the Japanese contingent. So we'll talk about the Hondas and the Yamahas and their massive improvements that we've seen at Kota. Now we'll talk about Honda first. Don't actually think we've gone through in this take two the manufacturer points at Kota. So Ducati. Obviously in first place with 113 points over the whole weekend. That's 39 in the sprint, 74 in the main race. Yamaha 29 points, so a fair amount less. And then that's 4 in the sprint, 25 in the race. Aprilia scored 23 points. They're in third place. KTM 14 points and Honda 10. Think about it this way: the reason Honda are at the bottom is because Mir crashed out of 8 points. He crashed out at P7 in the sprint and P11 in the main race. And yes, it was relatively early on, so it's really, really annoying. Yeah. Actually, it was just after the halfway point, I think, for Mir. But really, really annoying. He threw away 8 points at the weekend, and that would have put them above KTM. KTM would have been the lowest scoring. And bearing in mind that KTM in the main race didn't have either of their factory riders cross the line. Enea Bastianini was the top KTM, which if you said that to me on the Thursday before the weekend, I'd have been like, get soddy with this. That's not true. But anyway, let's talk about Honda. So, saying about Mir and how Mir lost out on 8 points. The top Honda for the whole weekend, I think we were all sort of expecting it to be Zarco. Zarco crashed out the race. It was Marini. Marini didn't automatically get into Q2, but he did top Q1, got into Q2, where he joined his factory teammate Jan Mir. So that was great to see both factory Hondas in Q2. But Marini was incredible all weekend, I think, genuinely. And a lot of people like to slag Marini off and say it's just Rossi's half brother, he's the only reason he's there and all sorts of things. But he's a top Honda. Let's also think about KTM as well, in the sense that Zarco, Marini, and Miller for Yamaha are all higher those three are higher in the standings than all 4 KTMs. So that just goes to show. I know we're saying that Honda scored the least amount of points over the Kota weekend, but their riders, two of their riders and one of Yamaha's riders are above all of the KTMs, which is just nuts, insane when you think about it.
I think we can see more of it. To be fair, it sounds pessimistic on KTM's behalf, but the way it's going, KTM are the ones that need concessions by the looks of it, and Honda and Yamaha are only going to get stronger, and stronger and stronger as they get more tests that allow them.
That's something we didn't cover last time before we got cut off. Is that we should actually cover concessions when we talk about KTM in a minute. But let's talk about. Let's finish off with Honda and Yamaha. I mean, I was seriously impressed by Yamaha, especially Jack Miller. P5 in the main race, fantastic. But also with Honda, just go back to Honda a sec. All the riders this weekend, and it was really obvious, not just from our perspective, but but everybody there noticed it as well. The commentators were mentioning it quite a lot. The Honda riders in the practice sessions, qualifying, and even during the race, seemed to be able to keep on the black stuff. They seem to be able to keep the bike upright and do more stuff with it that on last year's Honda would have sent them to the moon.
In general, I mean, yes, you can. thought about me and talk about Zarco, but in general, the points you're showing otherwise from last year is what Alex means.
So Mir's main race crash was aided by Ene Bastianini's block pass that he did, which was completely legal. It was fine, but it obviously just shunted. Mir had to leave room.
It was fair. It was fair.
It was fair, but Mir had to move out of the way, and he moved to a dirty part of the track and crashed out. And that's just how it is sometimes. Same thing with Zarco here at the dirty part of the track. It's not necessarily the Honda's fault. It's not. It's more of a grip issue rather than the Honda, but with its built-in ejector seat, like it was for Marc Marquez a few years ago, and like it sort of has been for Joan Mir, or very much has been for Joan Mir. I can't remember the last time he actually finished a race. Probably the last one, to be honest. But Mir has been saying that there is light at the end of the tunnel, even though didn't finish either race.
The fact that Luca Marini can say that he now has the same amount of points as he finished last year on this year,
which is insane. I think he's already beaten himself last year. I think
that's the.
I can't remember how many points by, but yeah. Another crazy stat from this weekend: all 4 Yamahas scored points in the main race. All 4 of them. And I know it was a bit of a race of attrition where I think there are only 2 riders that crossed the line that didn't score any points. But all 4 Yamahas in the main race, and the Aprilias actually. The Aprilias all scored points in the main race. All 4 of them as well. But yeah, I mean, I think we're definitely looking positive for Honda and Yamaha. I think the Yamaha could definitely be up fighting for podiums at some point soon. Yeah, at some point. So I think need a sort of a low grip track or something like that. It's going to be pretty good for the Honda. I think that's pretty much covered those guys.
I would say it has, yeah. I mean, we'll wait to see, like I said, for Aprilia, because they're a bit of a grey area now, frankly. I don't know where they're at. Bez, I think at P7, we always say people deserve these places because others crashed, but would he have been there? Where would Bez have been without some of the DNF in front of him? Doesn't matter. I think true pace we won't see for a while yet, but Agura is their saving grace right now along with him, so we'll see where they are. It's hard they're really weird right now, Aprilia. I just don't know where to put them.
They're back to like their 2022, 2023 form.
The thing is, they had the captain then, didn't they? They had Elish.
But the thing is, but they did last year, but they were nowhere last year. But you think about 2022, 2023 Aprilia, there were some races where there were some circuits where they were really strong.
Yeah.
Some circuits where they were just nowhere. And I mean, when we started watching the COTA weekend, Friday, Saturday, the Aprilias were just absolutely nowhere, especially on Friday. And I don't even know if any of the Aprilias even automatically qualified into Q2. I have to just double check that one. But the Aprilia did seem to really, really, really struggle They seem to really, really struggle, I think.
I don't think the Aprilia is which is weird.
They all went through Q1.
They did. But
all 4 of them went through Q1.
Yeah.
And none of them made it into Q2.
No, but the top result that they had was Bez.
Yeah.
Considering last year they won the race with Maverick, obviously that was an incredible ride. That was Maverick's best ever ride ever. So that was always going to be hard for Brilliant to come on. Bez turn up at COTA and win. Marquez, now forget it.
How the tables turned for Vinales.
Running down
how much of a difference a year makes,
that's something, isn't it? Good point. This year he's running down, finding his bike.
Last year he had the perfect bike, and this year he had no bike.
The Batman, he was sporting long hair, wasn't he? He was in his element, wasn't he?
God, he did have long hair last year, didn't he? Yeah. I actually quite liked it.
Come on, we need you back.
Yeah, we do need you back, man. But that's not to say that he's not doing well. He is the lowest scoring KTM at the moment. Is Maverick Vinales. He's the lowest in the standings. I genuinely thought the way that he was talking that it would be Ene Bastianini we were saying was the lowest scoring KTM, but he's not. He's tied with Pedro Acosta at the moment for how well the KTMs are doing. And speaking about how well the KTMs are doing, let's talk about how not well the KTMs do, especially KTM as a rule.
Oh, it's not like we're really slagging them off today. Go on.
KTM, we're not slagging KTM off.
No.
I mean, I have the most KTM team wear out of all the teams. I really, really like the team as well. I love Brad Binder, I love Pedro Acosta, I love Ene Bastianini, and Mav's great as well. I think all 4 riders I have a lot of time for, and I love their livery. Always love their livery. They're one of the newest. They are the newest manufacturer on the grid as well. Let's not forget.
Yes,
but it's no secret that they're going through some pretty shite financial times at the moment, and that's obviously one of the biggest contributing factors to what's going on. We know for a fact that they are not developing a 2027 bike at the moment. Not to say they won't, but now looking at it, I mean, think about it this way: if you're both of your factory riders crash out of the main race, if your team as a whole is performing pretty badly, with the exception of an Bastianini this weekend, how many race weekends will they have a similar shocking time at before sponsors start rethinking their partnership?
Yeah.
And then will we actually see a 2026 bike, never mind a 2027 bike? That's the worry, isn't it? And then you start asking questions.
It's a waiting game, isn't it? It's a waiting game. We won't know for a few months yet. I don't think you'd ever see, well, touch wood, I don't think you'd ever see a KTM in MotoGP, the main team without Red Bull backing. I think those two companies are very well married up. There's still no indication of Red Bull bailing them out, but people were saying that Dietrich Mateschitz, if he didn't pass away years ago, he would have just not even thought twice about it, being a petrol head. No, we'll buy you out, and that's it. We'll own KTM, and that would have made sense. But we'll see what happens, because we talk about this almost all the time. But as the form isn't improving on the track, you start to think that the banks, if they take an interest in marketing of exposure, which is less because they're not at the front, so you're not on TV as much. Although Dorna coverage, by the way, was better over the weekend, showing the middle pack. How much is it benefiting from the marketing exposure going racing? Because racing is it's to sell bikes. That's what it is. It's the only reason they go is to sell bikes.
Yeah.
Why else?
Which at the moment they're not really selling bikes. That's the big issue, is that they built all these different models, all these different bikes, and they produced so many of them when everyone decided to take up riding a motorbike during COVID, and now no one wants a motorbike, and it's like now we've got all this surplus stock that it's probably just going to get scrapped. But KTM, I mean, it was a tricky weekend for them. It's a tricky time for them at the moment, and there's also all these horrible rumours, horrible for them, rumours going around at the moment that Acosta wants out. Pedro Acosta being sort of like their poster boy almost. He's kind of their golden boy at the moment. He's obviously fired his way up through the ranks of Moto3, Moto2, and I think that at the moment he's probably going to be the most frustrated out of all the KTM riders, because Bastianini's been on Ducati, Vinales has been on bloody every manufacturer under the sun pretty much. And Brad Binder has been with KTM since the dawn of existence. But Pedro Acosta is the only one that sort of has this promise about him that he's not living up to. You can imagine being Pedro Acosta thinking, well, people expected wins from me, or at least podiums in my first season, which I've got a couple of podiums, broke a couple of records, didn't win a race, which people kind of expected me to, and now everything's kind of gotten worse over winter, financial-wise, and the bike itself appears to have gotten worse. He's still throwing at the scenery. I'd be nervous if I was Pedro Acosta. I wouldn't be too nervous.
I think he'd be looked after in terms of
he'd be looked after. I mean, there were the rumours last year that he was offered. KTM were offered €1.5 million to get Pedro out of his KTM deal. They basically buy him out from another manufacturer. We're not quite sure who. It's not confirmed who. None of the sources were confirmed. But so there was that. There was also the fact that he spent time with Rossi on his ranch in Tavulia.
Which could be anything, guys.
It could be anything, but there was quite a strong rumour that he'd had a conversation with Valentino Rossi about being in VR46 for the upcoming season or future season, and that Rossi gave him his personal number or something on those lines to call him anytime. But Acosta wanting out, I think, is very realistic. But then what happens to the other three riders if there's no KTM next year?
It gets messy. This is why you want 24 or 26 bikes in the grid, man. It's just so nasty that 2022 was the last year we had the full grid, with Suzuki. That was your last full season with all manufacturers. Well, all manufacturers. But basically you start losing established riders that should still really be on the grid, but because someone else is a bit better than you can't, unless you had another 2 teams or another one more team.
I think the way it would, the sort of most realistic way I'd see it happening is Vinales retires, Bastianini goes to like World Superbike or something, and I don't know, would Bastianini get looked after as well as we'd hope he would? Probably not. He's had his time at Ducati. He's had his whole MotoGP career at Ducati until this year.
I don't know where he'd go, honestly. If he wants out of KTM, where's he supposed to go?
Where is he supposed to go, exactly?
If VR46 are happy to keep these 2 and Pedro stays at KTM, I still don't know where he'd go. What if Alvia starts doing well? He can't. Well, the thing is, if you really want, he might be able to get back to Rossini. We'll see how Alvia goes, because they're not going to get rid of Alex Marquez, you can forget that.
100% not.
I think Pedro Acosta will probably hold a lot of cards going into 2026, honestly. And 27 probably as well. I
think Yamaha or Honda would be a fair shout for him. Either taking Alex Rins' seat, if, like you said earlier on, Alex Rins.
Before we got cut off, I think that'd be you'd be daft. Honda as well. Why would you not throw the checkbook at Pedro Acosta? He probably won't ask for as much money as someone like Marc or Pecco at this point in his career. And if the Honda they aren't going to leave MotoGP anytime soon.
Nope.
They've got a bigger budget than KTM.
The amount of money they're slinging at people is crazy.
Yeah, I think Acosta. I think he'll be well looked after by either Yamaha or Honda, to be honest with you. And both of those bikes, as we speak, are just as good. If you look at the riders on there now, I mean, Fabio isn't, weirdly enough, he's actually being outperformed now and again by Miller. Fabio got the wrong tyres on, to be fair, though, didn't he? He had a bike set up for the dry, half set for the dry, half for the wet. That was a spare bike. That's why he got eaten alive on Sunday, folks. The bike wasn't set up for the dry, so. But I think you put Pedro on a Yamaha, I think he would be quite easily the best rider there. We've got on a limb there. But he's not the best KTM rider right now. Not clearly though. He's obviously fed up with them, or fed up with the bike.
I think that's fair. I think he's fed up with it.
It looks like a lump on the track. Not that we're aerodynamicists or engineers, but it looks harder to ride. It looks clumsier than the last 2 iterations of the RC16.
Think about it this way: is that all this time we've had Brad Binder on the KTM, right? He's used to that bike. He knows that bike. Pedro Acosta has had a year there, and he's struggling with it. It took Enea Bastianini and Maverick Vinales to get onto the KTM and say, "This is extremely difficult to ride. This is so much less user friendly than anything else we've ridden before." And they're coming from 4 different manufacturers. Those 2, obviously very different machines because the Suzuki doesn't even exist anymore. Maverick's not been on the Yamaha since 2021, but he's had a couple of years at Aprilia, and Enea's had quite a few years at Ducati. So it's kind of an unfair thing to say that it must be really different from those bikes because those bikes are old bikes. But for them to say that all those bikes were pretty similar to each other, but the KTM is so vastly different, that's pretty big. So I really, really hope that KTM can sort themselves out. I hope that we see a 2026 bike. I hope that they're there on the grid next year, because otherwise it's going to be an absolute mess.
I wonder if they are. It's just a 2025 bike again, and they haven't been able to touch anything.
Yeah.
Could be something like that.
Yeah.
Unless, like Pit Byra or... She's been really weird, like you saw in F1 at the end of 08 to 09 when Braun GP. Again, folks, another change of location. This is probably one of the worst technical issues we've had ever, apart from when Keisha was, of course, cut off. The first issue was obviously the heat on the foam, and the second issue was actually the foam battery. We thought we had enough to do 10-15 minutes, we didn't. So here I am, and this is why the pod is late this week. But the general gist of what we were saying at the end there about the KTMs, if they're on the grid at all next year because their financial difficulties as a company, they might well have to use 2025 bikes if they're lucky. Let's just fingers crossed that doesn't happen, because we don't want 20 bikes in the grid, or maybe even 18.
It's going to get like the CRT days. Hopefully not, because we might see BMW, we might even see Suzuki come back. We'll see. But yeah, if they don't find some form very, very soon, you look, the banks are going to look at this and think, well, this marketing isn't working, you're not even getting results at the moment. So anyway, fingers crossed it doesn't come to that. But the championship is on, folks. We have Pecco Bagnaia now, less than 20 points behind Marc Marquez. We have Alex Marquez leading the championship by 1 point from his brother Marc, going into Qatar in a little over a week's time. I can't wait, really, because obviously we're going away now from the Marc Marquez specialist tracks. Well, we will go back to some later on in the year, but Pecco really now has to take this opportunity to make the most of like Qatar, Jerez, tracks he's won before. So, and obviously his head's going to be in a good space right now, so I can't wait to see what he can do. I think Marc will also come back, so we're going to probably win anyway, but Pecco will be the better place. Again, sorry that it's been a bit of a stop-start in this episode. I mean, I'm going to be, at some point soon, my girlfriend's laughing while she's recording this, trained on the editing tool on the laptop that we use for this, and from now on, I'm not recording without 100% battery. So thanks for tuning in, folks. It's embarrassing, I know, but we'll be back weekly as the season goes on. Thanks.